another week's worth of readings. Today's reading is interesting, but it can be misleading. So I think it needs some unpacking. I'm going to read it, and then after that, I'm going to do some unpacking because I see things slightly differently than Rev Ron Fox. So, not that he's wrong, it's just that I think it needs some explanation and some unpacking. He's called this "Let Challenges Bring Growth," which is fine, which I agree with. Let challenges bring growth. It's pretty good. You're going to have challenges? Well, might as well use them, correct? First quote is from someone everyone has heard of, Helen Keller. Security is mostly superstition. It doesn't exist in nature, nor do the children of man as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. No, I'm coming back to this as well, okay? Ernest Holmes in This Thing Called You says, divine guidance is yours for the asking. 100% true. The answer to any problem that can ever confront you already exists at the center of your being. And the center of your being is your connection with the divine. So yes, this is true. That was on page 63 of This Thing Called You. I'm going to go through this and unpack it afterwards, all right? Even though I'm tempted to unpack it as I go along, I'm not. But it's worth hanging in there, so hang in there. Every life has a story, and every life is marked by pain, loss, and sorrow. The question we face is how to deal with it. I'm sure that most of us would like to live lives without challenges, but challenges can be forces for growth. He says, years ago, I read the story about a man whose marriage ended, and then one of his children died of sudden infant syndrome, and then he attended a meditation retreat. On the second morning, he fell apart and began sobbing. The retreat master came and held him in his arms. Years later, the man said, now it's 30 years on, and I am the one holding those who weep. Joel Goldsmith says that the secret to living an harmonious life is to develop a spiritual consciousness. And to do that, we need to release our dependence on things in the outer world. We must have faith in something greater than ourselves. Every issue in our lives is determined by consciousness. Eric Butterworth taught that when we encounter a difficult time, we should say, I accept the reality of the situation, but not its permanence. We don't deny the reality of a situation, but we know there's a higher truth. He says, think back to a time when you had a challenge that threw you. Where is it now? Most likely it's gone. You learned and you moved on. As Helen Keller wrote, life is either a daring adventure or it's nothing. Okay. So there's a lot of stuff here. I mean, like a lot. Going back to Helen Keller, when she says that, well, let me read it. I don't want to misquote her. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. Okay, that's true up to a point. But in today's age, really in any age, you do need to be careful unless your consciousness is as powerful as people like Jesus and the Buddha and others of that stature. You need to exhibit some caution. If your consciousness was at their level, nothing would ever touch you. It couldn't, because you are so in touch with the all that you can pretty well demonstrate anything that you want, and that includes safety. But it's silly, I think, to say don't do anything as regards safety. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than outright exposure. it really depends what you're talking about. I mean, if you drive around these days, especially if you're a woman, but not necessarily, but more than likely, you need to be knowledgeable about who is around you. You need to know your surroundings, and you need to know when danger arises. Now, are you attracting danger if it comes to you? I mean, that is a very complex question. You know, do you attract everything that comes into your life? Well, in the absolute sense, yes, but in the practical sense, no, because it's complicated. You know, if you just imagine now that you are attempting to attract something in your life and somebody else is attempting to attract something in their life, and those things compete, it's got to be sorted out at some level of consciousness. And besides that, each and every one of us is connected both to the group human subconscious mind and to the universal subjective mind. So when I say, are you attracting it? It's really complicated because there's all these interactions involved at a level that we don't totally understand that effectively creates our experiences. But we do it jointly. We do it together. We don't really do it individually, most of us. And as I said, some of us who've got the power of Jesus, for instance, you know, can do pretty well anything in that regard. They can walk on water, literally. You know, they can calm the seas. They can produce fish from the sea. They know exactly where it is. You know, they can raise the dead. But unless your consciousness is at that level, then, in my opinion, you do need to exhibit some caution. Now, having said all that, our job is indeed to develop our consciousness continually by doing our spiritual work. And when we keep developing it, we become more and more able to just go through life and not have things touch us. And he says at the beginning here, every life has a story, and every story is marked by pain and loss and sorrow. No, not every story. A lot of stories in life are marked by pain and loss and sorrow, but not everyone. So, with due respect, I am not at that level of consciousness where I think I don't need to be careful about my surroundings. But if I was at that level of consciousness, yeah, I wouldn't even think about it. And because I didn't think about it, I wouldn't attract anything and nothing would happen. So, as I said, it's simple to say that we attract stuff in our lives, but it's not easy to ascertain exactly how that happens. And the last thing we should do is to beat ourselves up when things that we don't want do come in our lives. And it's really, really spiritual malpractice to point a finger at somebody and say, how did you attract that in your life? No, it's not that simple. And even if they had, it wouldn't be a reasonable thing to do. So, hey, that's my take on today's reading. And I know I'm in partial disagreement with Reverend Ron Fox. As I said, deep down at the basis of everything and at an absolute level of consciousness, he's 100% correct. But not all of us do that. And he even says himself in here somewhere about having to do the work. And people like Butterworth, if you read into who was a well-known New Thought writer, I think he was with Unity, says, I accept the reality of the situation, but not its permanence. So he doesn't deny what's going on. Like on Ernest Holmes, he says, face what's going on directly and then turn away from it and know what you actually want to experience and not what's going on, whether it's illness, like a money, like whatever it is, like a friendship, whatever it is. You acknowledge it's there and then you focus directly on what it is that you want. And as I said, it's complicated because there's all these minds that are involved in this whole thing. So this actually came up in a different way when I was in ministerial studies, and it came up regarding the quantum field. And If I'm focused in the quantum field on something and somebody else does, how does that sort itself out? Well, it sorts itself out at a higher level of consciousness. So anyway, hey, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. But the bottom line is this, that when Reverend Ron Fox brings this up, it's a great discussion point because we need to focus on it. We need to look at these things. We need to be aware of what's going on. So anyway, so I don't say he's wrong for bringing this up. I'm just saying I put a slightly different interpretation on it, which is just my opinion. He's got his opinion. I got mine. So what is your opinion on all this? What do you think? Affirmation. Today, I know whatever situation I face, Spirit is always with me. Yes. Today, I know that whatever situation I face, Spirit is always with me. Absolutely. Anytime I go within, divine guidance is available. Yes. Anytime I go within, divine guidance is available. Absolutely. Nothing I face is bigger than the God within. Nothing I face is bigger than the God within. I move through fear and feel peace. I move through fear and I feel peace. And all of this requires us to do our spiritual work. Spend some quiet time every day. Read uplifting things. Educate yourself. Learn more. And yes, listen to and read things like this because it gives you food for thought and it helps you to start developing your brain. And most of all, a living community. I don't mean it, and I don't mean in a monastery or a nunnery, you know what I mean. Live in community, have community, and maybe different communities. Community is incredibly important. So, all right, that's my lot for today. So until next time, namaste.